This week on the Austin Healey channel, we try to get everything in the engine bay ready for the engine. So with the transmission installed, the next logical step would be to test it out. The only problem with that is I don't have the right oil to put in it. I can't find a local source for the type of oil I want to use. We'll talk about exactly what that is later because it's very, very complicated. So for now, we're going to go back to the car and do all the little things that are easier when the engine's out. So the heat shielding isn't the right size, the right shape. I've already cut a hole down here to allow for the throttle pedal to come through. But there's a bell crank up here that needs to be adjusted so it fits. I'm not quite sure what material this is, but it's cutting with a coping saw. I don't know what it's doing to the blade, but now we'll do a test fit, and then we can go back with the file and smooth it out a little bit. It's the dip switch. It's the dimmer switch for the headlights. This car didn't come with one installed, so I've kind of been looking about how it goes on there. Basically, there's just a hole in the floor, and you could put the whole thing through there and have it mount from the back, or you can put it from the top. I think it goes from the top, and then the carpet goes over it. So down here is the hole where it goes, and you can see the shape of the hole is the same as this plastic shape on the back here. We're gonna mark that on the carpet. Now if we just cut off the whole mark, this plastic bit's a bit wider than the circle. So we just need to make it circle shape instead of this weird shape. See it there? I'm not going to be able to film and cut at the same time. There we go. Now we just have to figure out where it all goes. One thing I do know, this grommet goes right here. I know all these wires go into there. These go over here. This snakes down to the ground and goes to the back. These have lights on them for the instruments, so I know those go in the instrument panel. So I'm going to start feeding it through the hole. A bit of a tight squeeze, but we got it in there. Next step is to get this grommet on. Guess we don't have to do it right away, but you know, might as well. I'm going to use my favorite trick. Nice. And that'll kind of hold it in place while we move things around. I believe that anybody can replace this wiring harness with just some basic knowledge of electricity and a wiring diagram. Because if you can hook, if you can match the color wire to the thing you're wiring up, that's all you have to do. Really, these things are laid out very simply and are pretty easy to figure out. So, for example, let's look at this switch right here for the overdrive throttle switch right here. It's 71 and 57. So the 71 is green with black and white, and 57, there it's black. Yeah, the numbers have been reprinted so many times they're hard to read. Okay, so we have black and green with black and white. So let's see what wire we have. We have black and green with black. So it looks like I have these two turned around, so we're gonna flip the harness over. Some of these wires just have cut-off ends like this, so having a pair of something like this is really handy. What you do, it just you move over to the notch that corresponds with how big the wire is, and then you go down like a centimeter or so and squeeze, and it cuts it, and you're ready to go. There's other ways to do it, but since you have so many to do it, I really recommend getting a tool similar to this. On each component, well, most components, there's a number on the fuse box. A1, A2, A3, A4 is each individual terminal. And the chart tells you which color wire goes to that terminal. So on A1 we have number 33, which is brown. So we take the brown wire and it goes into A1. And on the other side in A2 is the brown with green. Now right now, I don't know where these wires lead to. It doesn't really matter. I'm just following the chart and hooking them up. Being very careful I get everything in the right place. If you do that, you won't have any problem at all when you put power to it. Now in A3 we have two white wires. A3's this top one here. And then in these other two, this one and this one, all these green wires. So you have to split them up. If I remember right, two are pretty heavy and then three are kind of small. So we'll keep the heavy ones together. I did manage to cut these a bit long, so I trimmed them up so there's not a lot of copper wire hiding out, hanging out. There you go, the fuse box is all wired up and ready to go. At this point, I'm not too crazy worried about where the wires are running. I need to be a little aware of it, but for the most part, I just want to get them hooked up in place, and then once I know exactly where they live, then I'll go back and straighten them out, line them up right, stuff like that. Like right now, this whole thing might be better if it runs up above it, because I don't have a lot of length here. Okay, so I put the wrong wire in. It's no big deal at this stage, as long as you catch it in time. So yesterday I put the ground on the screw that holds the regulator on, but I've learned since that there's a special place right next to it for grounding the regulator. It has its own dedicated captive nut, that's it. So we're going to, the nut's right here. It's been painted over because it's welded to the frame. We're going to scrape some of the paint off of it to get a good ground. So with the wiring, after you got things generally where you want them to go, you can go through and start straightening them out. Cable management makes things look more professional, whether you're doing cars or performance on stage with microphones, with cables all over the place, or theater productions. Having your cables orderly, it helps with diagnostics. It helps just for things to look as they should. There, now doesn't that look tidy? With the clips, I don't know how many I need, so I bought a whole bunch. I bought 10 in each different size, except for the really big ones, and those I bought 3. Or maybe they only had 3 in stock. I don't remember. But it's one of those things, it's good to have around. And you know, I can't find them at the hardware store. So I bought a bunch. Good to have stock of small bits like this. Did the same thing with the light bulbs. I had to order them on eBay. Actually, it was for the Sprite, I think. Maybe season 1, I don't remember. Instead of buying just what I needed and paying for shipping, I bought a whole bunch, so I'll have a stock of them, so it won't slow me down in the future. And these are like jelly bean parts. They're not expensive, but getting them is pain. Just done a quick cleaning of the cutoff switch. This one had the original switch in it. Looks like down in here there was some white paint that's all chipped out. So I'm going to use the crayon trick I showed you before to fill in that gap. This is completely reversible. So if you don't like it, I want to go back to how it was, that's doable. And it just needs polished up. So I've been putting this in place. It comes along down here, and it's supposed to go over to these wires. They have the bullet connectors on. Problem is, these don't. So I'm gonna have to put some bullet connectors on them, and then they get one of those single connectors. This wiring harness doesn't come with any of the single connectors. It does come with all the double ones though, which is nice. But I have to find all my single ones because they're hiding somewhere. To put new bullet connectors on those bare wires, you simply harvest some old ones and get a butt connector. Oh, I'm kidding. That's one way to do it. You put one of these crimp connectors on, and then you have these ugly red things all over your car. And it works, but the problem is, instead of having one connection, you have 1, 2, 3 connections. So, or 2, however you want to count it. But these serve their purpose, but we're not going to do that. We are going to take these, crimp them in the vise, get a pair of needle nose pliers and a torch. These are really just simply soldered on. So we heat them up, they pop right off. Just like that. Alright, so we have our 2 wires. Next step, we're going to solder them on. So you just take the connector, put it on there, and then you get some solder from Radio Shack, heat it up. Now you have 2 bullet connectors. I believe now I've done everything that has to be done before the engine goes in. There's certain things that I just wouldn't have access to, or it would be more difficult to access once the engine's in the way. Finding the information you need to route all these wires correctly has not always been an easy task. Finding pictures and restoration guide books is helpful. The service manual doesn't have a lot of information on it. But I have found a really great video series by Restonation, where he restores a BN2, I think. It's a great series, he does really good work, and he gives a complete guided tour of routing the cables for his project. So if you haven't found him yet, here's a link. Check him out, it's a really great series. So here we have the original fuel line and the new one. The original one has, on the far end, way down there, is the appears to be the original flex line, and down here on this end, it looks like this is an added piece. It's copper instead of steel like the original one. The actual fuel line looks to be in really solid shape, but you know, it's the fuel line, so I'm going to swap it out. Yeah, so the whoever did this did me a big favor and left all the fittings on there. They just used some adapters and stuff, and it looks pretty solid. I need to figure out from this point to here how that works, or if this is original. I don't know, let's have a look. So what I found online is not very conclusive, but we're gonna do what we can. I'm gonna start by straightening this out and see how much tube we have, and then go from there. Looks like we're gonna have just enough to make this piece, and then we don't have this one, but it's copper, so I'm thinking I'll just take it off, clean it up, and reuse it, because it won't be rusted inside. Have I ever told you how satisfying sandblasting is? This was like 2 minutes in the sandblaster and then some Scotch-Brite and it looks brand new. So yeah, that's going to attach on there. We'll bend this straight one to the same shape as that and see if we can get it installed. To get this started, we're going to tape them together just so the length doesn't, you know, keep shifting on me. We'll do this in a couple spots. Alright, now with that in place, we're able to bend this. We're just doing it by hand, slowly and steadily. There's nothing, no sharp enough corners to worry about kinking it. This one here, however, we are going to get the bender and bend it because it's pretty sharp. Just going to go in here like that, and then we'll use this to roll back this piece, and the profile that's in here will keep it from bending, kinking. All right. One thing I could see on the video I shot when I first pulled the engine was that there's a clip, one of these little hairpin clips that goes right here that holds the fuel line. This would be really hard to drill with the engine in place, so we definitely want to put it in now. I'm going to start by drilling a small hole. And then a larger hole. So I just drilled the hole, right? And so that's raw steel. If I put the clip in there and call it a day, it's going to rot all the way around there. So I have one of these touch-up pins. It's for scratch removal and stuff. It's basically just clear coat in a pin form. And I'm just going to go around that hole and put some clear over it to help keep it from rusting. Now we can put it in. Yeah, so I wasn't terribly happy with the fuel line that I bought. So what happened is the connection that goes into the fuel tank was the wrong one. So I had to take it off the old one, clean it up, put it on. And then the connection that goes into the fuel pump was weird. So instead of one clean connection, I had to do several connections. The elbow that I have, you know, I bought, it was like 20 bucks or something insane. And it was, you know, supposed to be for, you know, BN1. But now it's in place, and hopefully it won't leak. So it's coming up on February 14th, and besides being Valentine's Day, it's also the day I went with my oldest son to some faraway land and picked this thing up. It's been a year. It hasn't been a year of me working on it. I got delayed a little bit due to COVID and my playing with the Sprite. But what a change it's made in a year. Working on the wiring harness and the fuel line, I've had to go back to earlier videos to see kind of where things ran, where they, you know, should be. And it's really given me some perspective on the changes that it's made over the year. And it's certainly going a lot faster than season 1. So I'm very proud of the work I've done. It's nice to look back and every once in a while say, yeah, you're doing good, you're making progress. Keep going. If you want to come along on the ride as we complete this project, click the subscribe button. If you want YouTube to tell you every time there's a new video, click the alarm bell. Thanks for watching, and your support is very much appreciated.